Hi, this is Rachel from the Dotting Center. Today I'll be making this stone using paint bottles and medium body acrylic paint. This is a great video for those of you who want to see a mandala painting using bottles. Now, for those of you who like to follow along with each step, you'll need to fill in the gaps a few times, like maybe 5 times where I forgot to hit record while painting. But no worries, I'll be adding this snappy comedy song during those sections to soften the blow and hopefully make you start to look forward to all the missing footage. But if you're here to take a break from the usual programming and watch someone paint, then this will be a fun video to watch, and I'm so happy to share it with you. So let's get started and let me show you what I used for this project. For this project, I used paint applicator bottles, stylus tools, and large silicone tools. And here are the paints that I used, and everything is linked down below. So we're starting off with one huge big plumpy dot right in the center, and then bam, some dots appeared. I forgot to hit record. But basically, what you want to do here is create small dots in alternating colors around that center dot. And I'm using a tiny nozzle tip to get the tiniest dots. And now for the second row, I've decided to make a big dot. So for these larger dots, I'm just using a larger nozzle tip and adding a little bit more pressure to get those dots to be big. And that was Martha Stewart multi-surface. It was the color Lily Pad. And then this paint I actually mixed on my own. This is a fluid paint, but I added some gel medium. Clean up on dot 4. Gotta go in there and scrape that out. I got my large silicone tool, which is awesome for scraping out boo-boo dots. It just takes out the majority of the paint so that then you can come in and cleanly remove all the residue with a cotton swab. So after I cleaned up all the paint, I went back in with the base color and just kind of took out some of that shine from the metallic bits. There it is. So now I'm coming in with that gorgeous purple. That's Martha Stewart multi-surface Pacific Iris. And this is another medium body paint that holds its plump as it dries. A lot of acrylics will shrink when they dry, but this one really keeps its shape. Now, if you're curious about painting with bottles and you don't know where to start, I have an entire 45-minute intro video just on that one subject, and I will link it right here. Now, using my white with a small tip, I'm just going to create little dots all around each one of those purple drop shapes. And now I think I want to plump up that middle dot, so I just add a little bit more paint and make those dots just a little bit bigger. And once again, I forgot to record that gold. Oh, sorry. But hey, look, we make a mistake, we move on, right? Here we go. So at this point, I'm really feeling the flow, I'm working it. And I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. So this is where I realized that I should have used a stencil. I should have used a stencil. I learned this over and over and over again. But this, see how that it doesn't line up? You might not be able to see from the camera angle, but basically if I had had a line there to give me a guide to where I could point my drop I wouldn't have had that problem. So what I did was I just took my chalk pencil and I added the divider lines on what was left. So I just cut it in half and then cut each section in half again, so that now I have an axis to draw my points. And now I can actually place those drops so that the tip actually follows the correct axis. Yep, much better. So now, using a smaller nozzle tip and using that Jade paint, I'm going to come in with 2 little swooshes on either side of those drops. So it was at this point in the video where I turned my camera off and moved my stone, and when I did that, I dropped it flat on its face. So you can see here the damage. The damage was done. So you can see the center dots all messed up, and there's like a bunch of paint that I had to paint over with the base coat. And what I'll do is I'll let that dry, and then I'll come back in and repair it. See, it's pretty easy. So no big deal. There, it's like it never happened. So now that I have some divider lines, I can actually use them to guide this long drop shape. Now I'll just add some gold on either side of those shapes. And now we're going to come in and finish those flourishes with some bronze. So now we're going to take our bronze paint and just squish out some dots so that they fit in between those sections. And what we're going to find is that some of these sections are bigger than others. Like, see how this section, it's at the top of the stone, so there's more space, right? So I'm going to use more dots there than I will on the sides. So now we're going to use that Pacific Iris again and just, oh, look at how easy it is. See, that's a small nozzle tip, but I can still squeeze out large size dots using it. I don't need to replace it out for a larger tip. Some of you had that question, you know, does it matter? And really it doesn't. You can use a small tip, it needs a little bit more pressure on the bottle to squeeze it out, but you can still use it for big dots. And now I'm using a small tip on my FolkArt Pearl White paint. This is a multi-surface paint, and just adding little tiny dots around each one of those purple dots. Now I'm coming in with my custom made paint and adding 2 dots on either side of those green drops. Okay, so then some dots happened and some buttons failed to be pressed, namely the record button. But hey, this isn't mission critical, okay? I think you guys can see what happened. And look, hey, this was late at night. I was bleary-eyed. I'm homeschooling. I got 2 kids under 6, but no one wants to hear excuses. But I think what they really want to hear is some more of that song. So let's listen in. Okay, so now we are working that design down the sides of the stone, and I'm using that special paint. It's my favorite paint mixed with gel medium to get it plumpy. And we're just gonna add little swoosh shapes so that it has like a cute little vibe going on, just like a little decorative thing that fills in that space. So you can see that you can see some of the dried paint above it. That's the same color, that green. When it applies and it has that gel medium in it, it has this milky color to it. And then as it dries, it darkens. So now I'm seeing that I want those dots just a little bit bigger. So I'm adding more on top just to get them to stick out a little bit more. And now for the finishing touches, we'll just come in with some details and add some highlights to some of those dots using those same colors. And now we go in to add that super important center dot. And oh, gold and purple, they do some kind of magic thing. They just look really cool together. So now the last step is we're going to add some Dragonfly glaze. This is a blue-green gold shift. It's like little micro glitters in a varnish, and it's really pretty, tiny glitters. We're just gonna add, this is gonna act as like my varnish layer and my sparkle layer. So I'm just gonna add a thin coat of this on top, and we'll see how that looks. So one of the things I've learned in the past, and I don't know if you have noticed this, but when you're working with a natural stone, sometimes when you use a varnish or a clear acrylic paint, when you paint on the stone, see how it makes it look wet, how it darkens the color of the stone? Sometimes that will go away when it dries, but other times it will actually stay dark. And I don't know which way this paint goes, so I'm being very careful along the edge just to paint, you know, in the areas where there's paint. I don't want to make a sloppy line and then have that show up in the end product. So we'll see how it dries, and yeah, but I like the sparkle. Looks really cool. So here is the finished stone, another one to add to the collection. Oh, this was a fun one. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel because I have more videos like this to come. So if you are curious about dotting with bottles, if you've never tried it, I invite you to come over to the Dotting Center. I have plenty of applicator bottles, dotting tools, anything you will need to get started on your next dotting project. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.